So I think with that, we'll, that's kind of looking back to a lot of fun times,
Sure.
great weekend of basketball, ups and downs. Not all those memories were fond, but overall, it's pretty awesome.
They were very fun, except for the couple half point parlay bad beats we suffered that cost us
Oh
like
yeah,
6 grand. You know,
just
the Stanford one hated that because and like I said, it's one call. Uh, there's other things we liked way better, like it was just one of the first things that I liked for what it was. But you know, could have been a little bit like a really, really, really good financial weekend as far as the games watching. All in all, pretty good. Got a little chalky. Got very chalky on Saturday and Sunday, like really chalky then. But we had a blast thing with you. It's always a good time. I had no regrets.
all right. Let's go through these real quick. Looking forward to Sweet 16. Um, let's just start in the
East? No? Yeah.
yeah. Let's start in the East. UConn, San Diego State. Um, Real quick, what are your thoughts on this game?
Pretty fascinating. I can't remember the numbers on what I heard, but obviously it's a rematch of last year's national championship game, so that's pretty fascinating. You don't get that a lot in a tournament, I wouldn't think. Uh, so that's pretty cool. I heard someone start to talk about it, and then I had to turn it off and didn't listen to what the answer was. So I can't remember like how many times it's happened, but I feel like it's relatively rare. Games out on the East Coast, I believe it's being played in Boston, so that's gonna have and once again, UConn is known for a long time they're gonna be in Boston if they made it this far, which you had to figure they would. And so gonna be a tall task. San Diego State's literally going from one coast all the way to the other coast, like as far as you possibly can. You're talking like southwest all the way to the northeast. Like it couldn't be any longer across the country. Going to be a tough environment. San Diego State's going to want to really slow this thing down if they can. I don't think they're going to want to get in a game where they have to score 85, 90 points, and that will favor UConn for sure. They're probably going to muck it up, but UConn's a very good free throw shooting team, so they're going to probably try and foul a lot or play very physical. Hopefully, they don't get called for the fouls. They've got players. I mean, they're very good. They were obviously got a lot of experience from the team last year, played in a tough conference. It's the biggest point spread of all of the Sweet 16 games. I think UConn's at 9.5 for a 10-point favorite. At least they were a day or so ago when I looked. Um, I think it's kind of one where it kind of gets away from San Diego State. I mean, I can tell you one thing: if San Diego State does beat them, there's a lot of bracket trash out there. I didn't have UConn winning it all, so it would really actually probably help me. But I bet there would be 60 to 70% of people's brackets are garbage if they get knocked out here because
Yeah,
there's not many people that don't have UConn in the Final Four, and there's more people that have UConn winning it all than UConn not in the Elite Eight. I can tell you that by a wide margin. How does this bracket back up here? Well, you can. That's on the top. You can. So I don't know. What are your thoughts? I think that UConn will win the game, and maybe it'll be a grind for a half. I mean, I actually think that San Diego State is the by far the best team they'll play, and I think UConn honestly is like they were beating Northwestern, diminished, depleted Northwestern team, and it was by like 20 some points. But then the thing got all the way down to like 16 and kind of got in question whether UConn would cover, which we had on a thing, 13 and a half. And it got kind of like, well, it's like, man, like Northwestern's going to get like a greasy backdoor cover. And
Yeah.
of course, they killed Stetson. Like there's no, 16 seed is going to hang with the talent that's on UConn. You can say that about a couple of teams that they haven't been in this tournament. They lost, so like we're never going to mess around with them there. But San Diego State is going to try and make it grimy. They're going to have to hit. They're going to have to hit some threes for sure. I think to win this game. I mean, that's kind of like normal basketball in general. But like, you might have to hit double-digit threes to beat UConn. But I think I see. I mean, I would be surprised if UConn doesn't move on. I mean, part of me hopes they do. But then again, I don't really want to see Illinois advance. So, like, I think that's where Illinois gets tripped up if they don't get tripped up this weekend. But, like, I don't know. And the other part of me wants to see Purdue beat UConn and then beat the national championship game and just shut the whole thing down.
Yeah, I don't think it's a stretch to say that UConn's a heavy favorite here. I think that they take care of business here. And I kind of want them to, honestly. I want them to win big here because I think that the winner of Illinois Iowa State has a puncher's chance against them if UConn gets comfortable.
Oh yeah, I mean, I actually have. I think Iowa State winning in the Final Four on one, and I think I don't know if UConn the other, but like it would not surprise me if the winner of that game, I think will give UConn all they can handle.
Yeah, I think that gets magnified if quite honestly UConn rolls here and starts thinking, this is going to be easy this year. I just think that I just hate the things that come out of the coach's mouth. Like he won 2 games, convincingly in the opening rounds, and I'm sure he said more of it, but all I've seen is him complaining about the start time of his next game and just trying to employ a me against the world. And I really think that at this point, it's either one of two things. Like he's just that he can't read the room and he's just like, he's that unlikable, or
well, I think he is.
What I lean towards is he's really he's going out of his way because it's some of the things that come out of his mouth and how it comes out of his mouth and how he says what he says is he is really going out of his way to take it all upon himself and put all the pressure on himself and take it away from the kids, which I can actually respect that. If that's in fact what he's doing.
I think he is actually doing that. I don't like him at all. I think he actually does deflect from the kids, and it's almost like he puts the target on himself, so the kids have less pressure.
Yeah,
and they literally have he's brought up things where he's mentioned where he's uses things as motivation, and he talks about it openly, just about like someone else, and there's something crazy about like we were talking about, and somehow trying to turn that in motivation. My thing is like, if your players need to draw from that, like sometimes like that, like he actually looks at it as like, I know what the committee's trying to do. They try to make, he's like gone on record like saying like, they've tried to like make it really hard on us, like even this after each game. Like,
yeah,
it feels like I'm like, it's like, well, I know the committee's doing, they try to make it really hard on us, and like, so it's us against the world mentality. I'm like, are you kidding me, dude? Like they're trying to be like really hard on you.
So I don't know. I think that can go either way pretty easily. I think that you can deflect all the pressure off the kids, but you can also go so overboard with it that they have no choice but to take the brunt of it because they have to play the game. And you're going to get to a point where you're going to get a team motivated. They're not going to discern you from the team from you. They're just going to enjoy beating you because you're talking too much.
Have you ever seen the team where you see it all the time, I'm sure, but where they're like sit back and they're like complaining about the foul call from like 2 plays ago?
Yeah.
And then they're like, and it's like that play's done, dude. Like,
Yeah.
think about that.
No, and I can defend that if you do it once, trying to reset the tone of the game. But if it's continual, nonstop, you're doing nothing but hurt yourself. And I think this is a perfect example of that. Like I can get with you deflecting the attention once, put it all on me. But if the pattern is every single thing is deflect, it gets to a point where it's doing nothing but hurting your team.
To me, it's like if you are doing these kind of things and some of the things he's saying to motivate your team, it's so watered down now that it's like, how is it motivating your team? And that's my question. You know, like if my thing is like if you guys are buying into that as something that it like makes for like a level of motivation on some of the things he's trying to do, I'm like how dumb are these guys? Like the wool pulled all the way over. And I don't think they are, but I'm saying like that's. But like, who's buying that shit? Like, who are you doing it for? You're not doing it for your team. You know, like, are you just that big of a bag? I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see.
But
that's a UConn win.
Yeah.
Next, we got Illinois, Iowa State. I like Illinois here. I think they're kind of they're in a bit of a groove. I think that they're riding Terrence Shannon, and I think that he is. You see these runs from time to time. I think that's what's so upsetting about Oregon losing. I think that Couisnard was in a spot where he was going to make that Kimball Walker type run. Maybe it doesn't culminate in a championship, but those just special string of games players put together and they get deep runs from them. I think that Terrence Shannon Jr. is kind of in that spot, and I think it might be a little much, in my opinion, for Iowa State to overcome. But I'd love to see myself be wrong about that. But if I had to pick the game, my pick is Illinois in this spot. But what say you?
I'm very much on the fence. So you have the highest ranked offensive team versus the highest ranked defensive team. So you have the polar opposites playing one another. And defense wins championships, but sometimes offense wins you games. So the team.
What I will say, limit before you go with that. That's a great point. Not all defense is created the same, and my biggest picking nit of Iowa State when we started this little project of ours is I saw some of the worst transition defense I've ever seen.
Yeah, Illinois.
And those are in spots. And then a lot of that was away where they're a different team. Those were away games where they're a different team. But that's still on film where they just showed no interest in getting back on defense. And what has Terrence Shannon Jr. been doing? How's he been getting his points? He's been getting them on breaks, semi-breaks, getting downhill, where the defense is not in position. They're not in help. He's hooking people's arms and getting and one calls ad nauseum. I think that what I've seen from Iowa State when I was looking at them, if Illinois can capitalize on those habits, even though they are a tremendous team defense, I think that it very much plays into what Illinois wants to do and what they've been doing the first two rounds of this tournament. So, but you're right. I think it's going to be a tremendous game because of that. I think whichever team makes an adjustment is going to win it. I think that it's going to be a great game, though.
Well, I think so. This is similar to how I feel about some other games. I feel like really Gonzaga in its own way. So this is like where. So Illinois had not been to the Sweet 16 since 2005. Brad Underwood hadn't been there either. Maybe he had been when he was at Oklahoma State or previous stop. But like he hadn't been there with Illinois yet. Illinois had been there obviously since 2005. And so they do get a monkey off their back, almost a 20-year-old, like hadn't been like if I didn't know that, and I'm like, how long has it been since Illinois been in the, Sweet 16? As successful as they've been when Brad Underwood's been there, you would be like shocked, if I didn't, told you like 20, 19. That seems like that's a long ass time. And for all the struggles people want to say Purdue in the tournament, they've been in the Sweet 16 probably the last 7 years. So some people call that very successful.
Yeah.
It's just the other shit. It's just what's happened when they got there before them. But you look here at the bracket, my TV situation messed up, so I was trying to look over there. Look at the bracket, and Illinois has actually been, I think, sort of inconsistent. They're actually playing at a really high level right now with Terrence Shannon Jr. And under the radar thing is they came out today, although I think he's already been on the gag order. But I think yesterday or today they announced that Terrence Shannon Jr. is off media, off limits to the media. Like he's not going to say anything or whatever. And to me, it's almost like that kind of thing now. I don't even know if that needs to be brought up, but the fact that that's kind of like even been brought up, I think is a distraction. Does that make sense a little bit? I know that's a very next level under the radar difference. Not necessarily going to affect the teammates or whatever, but like things have been going very well. Hasn't heard a whole lot of crap about it. I think Illinois just getting out of the Big Ten, much like Purdue, it's kind of helped them do what they want to do. I think when you play like Illinois and you look at like the athleticism and the talent and some depth and just they're very well coached and they play hard. I think they pose a lot of tough matchups in a lot of positions because they got like 5 guys that can shoot the ball. They can shoot the ball from like 5 positions, and then they got bench players that can play. But I think that if you're Illinois, you could not have asked, much similar to like Gonzaga in their own way, but like you could not, even better, and you didn't have to play BYU, who has that capability of shooting threes and getting, because Duquesne knocked him off, right? So you got to play Duquesne, and then in the opening game you played Morehead State, 2 teams that like you just athletically can just, put to bed. And Iowa State, because of the way they get up in you, I feel like they're gonna like let it be a physical game, and I don't think that benefits Illinois. That's not like So obviously, it's going to come down to what team can impose their will on the other team. I think in one of Iowa State's best games, they outplayed a Houston team, but Houston does have some limitations scoring the ball at times, and so that kind of fits into the wheelhouse of what they like to do. So, a team that can't score as well, if you get them down 15 or 20 points, is going to continue to usually look worse in a game. Whereas Illinois will not have that problem. They got plenty of guys that can score. Now, I do think, for me, Illinois, and luckily Iowa State's not a great team, but like they don't play, in my opinion, they don't play good enough defense. Talent-wise, they can maybe beat UConn if they get past this game. But they don't play good enough defense to beat UConn. And so they might not get there, of course. Like I said, I had Iowa State in there for something different. Maybe that's partially because I don't want to see Illinois do well. So I think originally, I don't know if we went with Iowa State or Illinois. But I guess I'm going to say Iowa State in this game, but I would not be surprised if Illinois wins this game. I mean, they've got gunners, but I just think that now you got to the point where like Iowa State is going to be a little grimy, and I think that's going to frustrate some of like Cohen Hawkins is going to be talking about some shit like fouls from like 3 plays earlier or first half in the second half, complaining about not getting calls, and I think they're going to make it harder on Terrence Shannon Jr. than he's used to, and the crazy thing happens when you don't get to do what you want, and he's got a ton of N1 calls, and he's been on fire in this tournament. But it's like the step up in competition from what they have seen in the first 2 tournament games. And honestly, you go back to the Big Ten path. it's like they played Nebraska, not a good defensive team, good 3-point shooting team, bang. You end up avoiding Purdue. It would have been hard to beat them a third time. They don't match up well with Purdue in that way. But they get Wisconsin, who they do, and they basically outlasted them. So it's like they're on a little bit of a streak, but it's sort of set up. It's like they're just better than all those teams. It'll be interesting to see if they're just better than Iowa State, because Iowa State they've played tons of great teams, so they're going to take it as a challenge. Because I actually think that Iowa State feels like the underdog in this situation, because you hear a lot of people out there like saying like Illinois, and then on top of that, the Big Ten historically, unfortunately, in the last several years has not done really well in this tournament, even though getting to the Sweet 16 has been good, But I think this is where Illinois' in comes. But, if they get hot and get going, maybe they dispirit Iowa, But I think Iowa State, they're a front runner. So if they get out and get ahead of them, but if they struggle in the game, I think they're going to struggle to get out of the deficit to beat Iowa State.
It'll be a good game.
It'll be a good game. Outside of Purdue's game, I think it'll be one of the best games to watch.
North Carolina, Alabama. I got North Carolina here pretty easily, honestly. Score-wise, like I said, I think that this game could have been I think that Alabama's experience in the previous round against Grand Canyon, I think helps them with confidence. I think it probably sharpens them. But I don't think that carries over really into the second half of the game. I think North Carolina takes care of business here. I think the score will probably be closer than the game. I don't think the game is ever going to be in doubt for North Carolina. But I think in spots, Alabama is going to, make a run or two. And they're not going to, it's going to be close. They're not going to be shell-shocked at the beginning of the game, which I think they could have been if they would have, been able to walk through the last game and not just have to compete. I think it probably sharpened them to the point where they can compete in the first half of this game and in spots maybe in the second half, but I don't think it's really ever in doubt for North Carolina.
Quick turnaround for them.
Yeah, for sure.
Because North Carolina played on Saturday, but Alabama had to play on Sunday. And
Correct.
Had to go all the way out they were out in Spokane. So
Yep.
So now they did end up just going right after that game next day, headed to LA to be already on the West Coast, because they're already acclimated. They actually took in the Clippers Pacers game. And so they actually kind of looked at that, and I heard some quotes about, I heard an interview with Nate Oates talking about how, like, hey, they're looking at it as like, man, that guy was kind of lazy on defense or did that or whatever else. And it's almost like, well, sometimes you look like that guy, almost like calling out as like, not just like calling out as players, but like saying, hey, well, that could be you. Like, that's what you're seeing that now. You're watching these pros play. Like, when we look on film, sometimes I say that about, some of you, sort of what it seemed like he was kind of getting at. And so I think originally, and I think I had this as a matchup, but maybe I had Grand Canyon, I can't remember, but I certainly believe I had this certainly as very highly likely. And I think at first I thought that Carolina would just waylay them, I thought Michigan State could be North Carolina, but if they got to this, I felt like North Carolina was going to be a little much for Alabama because they just don't play great defense. Alabama hasn't played better defense since the tournament started, but I feel like stylistically, College of Charleston does the same thing Alabama does, but with way less athletes and not the same proficiency. And Grand Canyon in the first half and doing some of these other things and I know Whiteside had a concussion. It's a big time player for Alabama. I don't know if he'll be back, but he might not be back to 100%. But then they had that guy off the bench came in and really stepped up and really, I think it was a 4 or 5 star freshman. He really came on board and started playing really well. He had all that buckets at the end of that game. He had that 6, 7, 8 points in a row. I understanding of the name right now. He came in and did really well. But I think I like North Carolina to win this game, but I would have said that I didn't think Alabama had much of a shot going in. But as time's gone on, I don't know. I just think North Carolina with the experience, they're gonna control what they want to do. I mean, they can get in a high scoring game too, with Alabama. But I just think on the defensive end, they're better, and they're pretty good at rebounding as well. And I just think that North Carolina, with their experience, is going to make enough of the plays down the stretch where they're not going to get out of pocket, out of character for them, and they'll win the game. But I think Alabama's a live dog here, but they got to shoot the ball well, But I think defensively they're just this will be a very big test for Alabama. So I'd say North Carolina.
Agreed. Clemson, Arizona. I know what you're saying with nobody talking about Clemson, but I got Arizona here.
Yeah, I mean PJ Hall, great player inside. Hunter's been playing really, really well. I think Clemson was obviously very good earlier in the year. This game's out on the West Coast. It's going to be a lot of Arizona fans there. So it's going to be heavy home crowd, even though it's a few hours away from their home, or handful of hours, but way closer.
So here's the thing with Arizona. To me, Arizona goes as Caleb Love goes. When I watch them play, if Caleb Love is engaged and gets going early and good body language, like he carries a lot of weight with his teammates. I think they look at him as that guy, maybe not necessarily a leader, like in the traditional sense, like, hey, rah, like, but they get confidence from how he starts a game off. And I'm telling you right now that the Carolina-Alabama game being the early game, if you think that anything is going to get in the way of Caleb Love being able to play North Carolina, you are out of your fucking mind.
So you almost need like North Carolina to win that, because then what happens?
Yeah, exactly.
They're saying like maybe that changes things too.
Possibly, but you're going to get I fully expect North Carolina to win, and because of that, I think you're going to get a memorable all-time. Remember that game that Caleb Love had against some team? Who was it? Clemson, I think. I don't know. Maybe it was someone else. That you're about to. Unfortunately, nobody's talking about Clemson. Like, the end of their story here is, I think that Caleb Love has an incredible game trying to get to his former team in Carolina. And if that happens, that'll be a fun preview, because I've kind of done a deep dive on Caleb Love and how all that shit went down at Carolina. Can you imagine putting a banner up and like transferring? And I'll leave it at that. Like, the answer is no. Why would you do that? But there is answers. So I've been researching that, and it's fascinating to me. So I don't have a whole lot of analysis other than,
I mean, Arizona is trying to get to the Final Four, and
besides the fact they're very good.
Yeah. Well, Caleb Love, the thing about with him is like when he does a lot of hero ball and is not shooting well, they get beat. Like,
yeah.
I mean, so you're right. A lot of it ties to him.
Well, I think that
going back North Carolina, like Alabama, like really quick, that game's even playing the crypto.com, like where the Lakers and Clippers play. And so I think actually with those rims being tighter, more like an NBA vibe place, I think that actually hurts Alabama more, because like they're going to be relying on shooting the ball well. I think more so than North Carolina. Like,
I agree. It's very like
that'll make it tough. That'll make it
shooting
tough.
in an NBA arena is crazy. Like just the backdrop.
Yeah.
Like we've played, like I've had my girls play in Gainbridge for games.
Yeah.
With no fans, but just the scale of what the backdrop is crazy. And if you're not used to that, I mean, if you're relying on shooting, if like Alabama being a big component of them being able to compete on this elite level, at this point in the tournament against these teams, they have to hit shots, and that's not. I mean, they're capable, but when you start throwing in these variables, they may not shoot well. Like it puts it in doubt. Like, and if we're doubting it, we're not the ones shooting. Like the shooters are probably.
North Carolina is very good on the glass too, and also to that point in this game, back on this one, Arizona Clemson. Clemson decent rebounding team. Arizona's phenomenal rebounding team.
Yeah,
I mean they've only been like I think Purdue out rebounded in their game, but they haven't been out rebounded a whole lot on the season. So they're just, and they've got a lot of talent. They've got a lot of NBA size and talent. I mean, who from the team's actually a pro, but they certainly have a handful of them, I'm sure.
Yeah, they do. There's 3 or 4.
I mean, like
gifted.
Yeah, and so I think that becomes a little bit much for Clemson when it's all said and done. I think Clemson being in the game, but I can see, but I'm not about. I just don't really trust Arizona, but I trust them here.
I don't think that they have. So I don't feel the same. I feel the same way about their talent, like a Michigan State or some of these other teams.
Yeah.
But I'm not as worried about the inconsistency showing up because one, I feel like they've always showed up for the most part in big games.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, I think that they kind of played with their food a little bit with Dayton, and they showed the ability in game to turn it up where it was like, okay, like.
And Dayton was playing pretty well.
They were playing very well, as well as they could have in that spot. And like I said,
honestly,
I think
they were kind of dinging around. They were really flirting with getting beat by Dayton. So
they
managed to, but at the same time, we wouldn't at that point we wouldn't watch that game like it didn't give me like I'm the same confidence level of Arizona as far as that goes. Like could they win the whole thing partially because it's in their place? Sure, but it's like I see a lot of like low IQ plays, with them. I really do.
But at the same token, I saw some really when they stopped playing with their food, as I say.
Yeah.
I saw some really high IQ shit too.
They did, yes.
Along with their athleticism, their length, their shot making ability. I saw some things where so I saw a pin down option on the block that took 2 passes to the weak side before it was thrown, and they had to communicate on the block pin down who flared. Like I watched that replay and I'm like, that's not just like, oh, he cut and got open for a shot. Like that was, we're going to exploit these people and they're guessing and then we made them look stupid. That's, those little things when you're locked in, and you can do those things. They got to a point where they let Dayton in the game because of low IQ basketball, but it wasn't just athleticism that put Dayton away. There was some execution there, and it wasn't just play calls like set out of sets. It was executing within the sets and reading the defense, which to me is high IQ.
Well, I will tell you this, and obviously as it pairs down with there's, obviously ACC has 4 conference teams left. I mean, it's there's a relatively good chance that there's 1 left after these rounds again. I mean, I don't see Clemson winning, and I really don't see NC State winning. we're gonna get to that, of course, but
Yeah.
when you go break it down by conference, it's sort of like I think they've come to the end of the road here,
Yeah.
personally. And I don't, and Clemson's been playing really well, but I don't think they're crazy deep. And if PJ Hall gets in foul trouble, they're in bad shape, and they've got some dudes, some athletic. So he got in foul trouble this past one, and they had Baylor put to bed, and they dinged around and fortunately made enough plays to hang on and win the game. But I, but it's almost like Baylor is like Arizona light,
Yeah.
and so it's like if you do that against Arizona, you're going to be getting beat. So that's my personal assessment on that as well. A little bit too much talent for me, I think.
I agree. I would look forward. I mean, we'll see how Arizona responds, but I think it sets up for a really good game. Arizona, North Carolina, that I'll be looking forward to.
Yeah. And with I was not so sure that would actually happen. I know that's what they wanted to happen, but it's just like you start looking at like one seeds who can lose, or just Arizona the way they've been. Like you're just like, maybe they don't either one make it, but like here we are, we're it's kind of trending towards that happening. But like, still not done deal yet. Not a done deal yet.
Not at all. Going over to the South, Houston and Duke.
Man, you tell
Duke
me.
looked good, but I got Houston here.
Yeah, I think it's the best game Duke has played all year.
Yeah,
without
easily.
I mean, like I've watched them play a handful of times, and I'm like, this team was like hooked up, and I think the freshman McCain, he went like ape shit berserk, like he just went nuts.
Yeah,
and so he's unlikely to do that performance again. And I also think you get in a spot to where like what James Madison could do defensively, especially when one of the best offensive player in foul trouble. It's almost like it just snowballed. Like they had a lot of shots at the rim, and then they didn't make it. They wouldn't get a rebound. And then all of a sudden, bang! Like transition three, or like just get them. And it's just like that game was like at 6 or 7 points, and you're like, man, if they can't make some of these layups, they're in the danger zone because it wasn't like it happened very fast. The worst thing to watch very fast. There is just like they're like, I mean, and still as well as I watched, James Madison play, I'm like, I don't think they'll all the way buckle, like, still, but like it was just like, just haymaker, like it was just like, they were never really in the game long enough to like, a lot. And I don't think you can repeat that. I think Houston getting a pretty big scare. The game's been played in Dallas. Duke fans travel everywhere, but Houston once again has known they're going to be playing in Dallas for like 2 months. They probably gobbled up all these tickets or a lot of these tickets. I don't think that they like, I thought that Texas A&M was a very live dog in that game. We mainly stayed away from it, but I'm like, I wouldn't have taken Houston to cover in that game in any circumstances, and they almost did. But they dinged around. Game goes overtime. But Texas A&M's kind of like they kind of pose a lot of matchup problems because like they just keep on coming out. You know what I'm saying? Like, and Duke's got pros on their team, of course, but I just think that some things that Houston's going to want to do defensively is going to limit a lot of that shit.
Yeah.
So I think originally I really thought, and Duke is a live dog, but I think originally I really thought like, man, maybe Duke. But the more I think about it now, it's like I just think that
I just love the idea of Houston getting all week to scout and prepare for Duke.
Yeah, and I think it's a harder challenge to prepare for Houston for Duke than it is the other way around.
Yeah.
Like, because you just, they can just, and in my opinion, they have the best point guard in the country as well.
Agree. I think the point guard and the elite defense is probably going to put Duke. Duke knows that going into the game, and I think that they're going to be out of sorts and not comfortable before tip.
Yeah, and I don't really like Kelvin Sampson, but he is a hell of a coach, and I
think at some point you gotta. I think you gotta respect him at some point.
I respect
what he does.
What he does. I mean, it's not. I don't personally like him as a coach, but as far as like,
he's just always been ahead of the curve. I think that if he was starting his career now, nobody would think anything of it. He's just been in the NIL era for 30 years.
He was. He's still coaching in the.
He's very comfortable here.
Yeah. It's just like, what? We can do this now? I don't have to hide it? Cool.
So
I don't have to run things by my secretary. Cool. I think I like Houston here.
I agree. Don't overthink it. Yeah. Get off the name brand. Yeah. NC State, Marquette, I think based on what I heard you say, I think we're on the same page here. I like Marquette a lot. I think that the big question mark with me going to the tournament was Kolek and if he was healthy or not. And
answer that.
Yeah, for sure. And really watching him play, it's not just like, okay, coming off an injury and I can still get some points. Yeah, I'll still score. I do that, but it's not just that. I mean, he's assist to turnover ratio is incredible. He's creating for others. He's competing on defense. He's actually rebounding quite well. The rebounding is what threw me off. We were talking at the game. I was like, how fucking tall is he? Because he just looked bigger and longer. And against
he does have some good length, I think.
Yeah, and I guess for whatever reason, it doesn't really stand out to me in any games I've seen him play. But it stood out to me with a more average sized backcourt against Colorado when we were watching them. I'm like, how tall is he really? He's 6'3", but like he plays, he can get into the paint and he changes speeds well. He's not a blow by guy, but he's more of that doesn't mean anything because one of the best players in the NBA right now is Luka Doncic, and he couldn't blow by you or I, honestly, but he can change speeds well and play with angles, and that's what I see with Kolek, and
he does that as good as anybody in the country.
Yeah, he understands angles. He can see where the help is coming from, and very rarely does he make the wrong decision with the basketball. He's just as aggressive scoring the ball as giving it up as a point guard, which is it's something that not everyone. It sounds simple, but it's very hard to do in live action against high level competition. And I think the Colorado backcourt is as good as anyone's as far as, a talent standpoint and scoring, and they compete defensively. So I think that showed me a lot as far as where his health is at. And you're giving him days, another week before he has to play again. NC State's been a fun story to this point, but I think Marquette just has too much.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, and obviously they had a tough game against Colorado, but like you get into sort of an NC State thing, I'm a big fan. I'm all about like who you actually played to get to where you're at this point. And NC State really was fairly fortunate to win their game prior to this.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that was Oakland, and and they really, but they really were in a spot where they've had good matchups going to this point, and I'm actually not surprised they were in. I actually had really considered strongly having them in the Sweet 16, and I just knew I knew that a tough enough first game. I'm like, it's a lot to ask the team to win like 3. You get in, like you got to do that, win these games, and they still were fortunate to win it. But they're good. I mean, they've got 2 good players. They got more than 2 good. They're a good team. But I just think when you get Marquette and the way Kolek runs that show and pokes and prods the defense, and
Cam Jones,
Cam Jones. I mean, like with like they've got a lot of good players. I mean, they're very well coached. I think Shaka Smart, you can see the relief when he made the Sweet 16 in the post-game interview. It's almost like this weight got lifted off because it's like the only time he's been in Sweet 16 was when he was at VCU, knocked out Purdue that tournament. I was there in that game, went to the Final Four that year as a sleeper.
Yeah.
But he's not been back there as a coach since. And I think he knows he's got a special group, and Marquette's very, very battle tested as well in the non-conference. And I just think like that's what you get all these teams that get all this experience, playing really difficult non-conference games. They're just so much better set up. And
Yeah.
I don't know what NC State's schedule was, and obviously it was a hell of a run for them to win 5 games in the ACC tournament. Clearly, that's turning out to be a very good conference at this point. It looks, in hindsight. But I think that Marquette can just, I mean, honestly, like I've said, you said, with Kolek, I don't think UConn beats them at Marquette. And I don't know that they beat him in the Big East tournament. They don't win both. Let's put it that way. They might have won one or the other. But they don't beat him with him. And because he is just that much of a difference maker. He just sets the tone. And the fact that this game is actually competitive, like it's just like Marquette is an elite team that if they get to the level, plus they had a disappointing season last year too. They got knocked out by Michigan State second round. They had a lot of high expectations, much like Purdue. They were a big upset, They were a 2 seed last year, right? Or I think 2. I think they were 2 seed. I don't know. I think they were 2 seed. And it's like they had a disappointing second round loss. And so they're just, when you watch them play, like they just do a lot of things very well. And so I definitely have a Marquette win this game here. I think they're very good.
Agreed. Set up for a really nice matchup.
Yeah.
Against Houston.
Yeah.
And that'd be a tough game to pick, honestly. I'd really.
I think I'm picking in that one when we get through these. I know who I'm picking in that one.
Yeah, we'll have to pick those. We'll have a small window. We'll have to figure that out. We'll one way or another get it out.
Okay.
Yeah. Creighton, Tennessee.
Well, one of the Purdue's, the Midwest is probably the most intriguing of the Sweet 16 matchups as far as both go.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the one where any of the 4 teams can beyond realistically make it to the Final Four. I mean, I think it's the only region where all 4 teams could win the national title. Now, I don't like that would, I would not count on some necessarily, but those teams, if they play what they're capable, they can really get it done. Tennessee, very, very good team. They've never made a Final Four. I don't think Creighton has either. They were like one basket away last year. Ryan Nimhard now plays on Gonzaga's team. So, it's fascinating. A lot of people, that'd be fun. I don't know what's going to happen, but, whatever, we'll see. But as far as Creighton, Tennessee goes, Kalkbrenner, Tennessee still gets caught up in these bad offensive games. Now, it seems like Dalton Knecht doesn't usually have 2 bad games in a row, so he's probably due for like a heater. Which, if that's the case, that's going to make things tough for Creighton. But I think, I think Creighton is going to be here's the thing. If the game is called in a way that Tennessee's able to be like really, really physical with them, but I don't know that Tennessee, I can't remember. I should know this. I heard a stat, but I can't remember now. Creighton obviously can really, really shoot the ball. And so Tennessee still has, like, you watch them play Texas, like, they really not great at closing a game out. They're not a great 3-point shooting team. So if the wrong people fall in love with shooting threes, like Connect had a pretty bad game. If like when you watch other people play, like I don't see a lot of great 3-point shooters on that team, on Tennessee.
No.
So like if you get in a game where Creighton can kind of get on one of those runs where they really shoot well and they've got a guy inside that's good and they're very well coached, I kind of think Creighton's going to win this basketball game, and that's just me. But that's not the most popular pick, but there are people doing it. But
yeah, I'm on the fence with it. I
actually think that Tennessee very well their ceiling might be higher.
Oh yeah, I think for sure.
But I just think that Creighton, they went to the Elite Eight last year. I think there's something to be said about a team that like really wants to get back to it. Tennessee is not under their coach. It's had a rough go in the tournament. I don't really like to bring that kind of thing up, but there does become a fact where it's like, who's the guy you think might do a little better in this situation? And at this point, it's McDermott, based on history. But I think Tennessee has a higher ceiling, but I think that Creighton is going to be able to do some things matchup-wise where I just think if Creighton gets ahead by a certain amount, I think it's going to be hard for Tennessee to come back. If the game is more of a higher scoring game, I don't think they can win the game either. So that's my stance on that.
I think that
I think it's the game. Really, Iowa State, Illinois is up there, but I think it's actually the game I want to watch the most because of like what it means for Purdue potentially. And obviously, Purdue's game's played first, and there's a second. So clearly, be watching that to see, like, if we win. If we lose, I might not give a shit about turn anymore. Could be done for me, but that should be a hell of a game.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I think that Creighton runs a lot of post split offense. So the post split where you get these open threes, and but they very rarely, when I watched them play Oregon, they'll take the three and there's an extra pass there if it's needed. And they just took the three. The whole reason you run a post split is so you can get, if you are run off the line, that post split, you really are putting one defender in a spot where are they running out or are they protecting the rim? And even if they make the wrong decision and you make another pass, it's usually a layup or a lob for a dunk. And Creighton runs that, but I feel like they don't always. And again, the games I've watched. I watched the UConn game and the most recent game against Oregon. So in those cases, they kind of got on heaters and let the shot fly without looking for the extra pass, but it's there. I just don't know why you would run like Golden State's offense, run a lot of post splits, which is a very hard cover and puts teams in compromising positions. So I don't know. I don't know the answer to why they don't, but I think that what I've seen in the most recent game anyway, is in a close game, an all-time game that went to overtime against Oregon, to me, if I'm scouting just that game, it looks like they settle for that shot. That may not be the case when it comes to it, but if I'm Tennessee and I'm looking at that means to me, I gotta close out hard and I have to rebound on the weak side. And you have to live with the fact. Well, I'm sorry, you have to pick your poison. Am I gonna box out on the weak side, or am I gonna chase the split catch in the post? And to me, just looking at what Tennessee was doing against Texas, they were apt to try to rebound. And so, I mean, I know it's very simplistic to say, but I think that
Texas doesn't have the same shooters either.
no.
So like,
no, but I think that
you can afford to crash and glass against them. If you don't close out on 3 or 4 guys from Creighton, you're in trouble.
I like Tennessee if Creighton is settling for these shots, miss or make, honestly, because I think that, like you said, I think that Connect can keep them in the game offensively for stretches.
Yeah.
But if Creighton goes cold and does not show the ability to cycle through a play within their sets, I like Tennessee in that spot. Even if they're hitting 40-50% of their threes at that point, they're leaving a lot on the board as far as an easy bucket, and they're not getting to the line, and Tennessee's getting more possessions because they're rebounding. I think that Tennessee will out-rebound them pretty comfortably here.
Yeah.
So for that reason, it's of all the games, there's variables to where like it could go either way, but just looking at the most recent games played, I'm going with Tennessee in this game for that. But Creighton very easily could exploit Tennessee by making an extra pass and throwing them off, and it's fascinating to see how that's going to play out. But I think that if Creighton plays to the best of their ability and passes up on semi-contested threes and throws the ball to cutters, and they actually cut off of the split catch, then this could be a Creighton game where they blow them out. But I just saw so many opportunities against an Oregon team that was competing where they shot the three and it worked out for them, and it's what allowed them to win the game.
Well, I think so. They could go really good either way.
Yeah, it'll be a good game.
I think Tennessee has a higher ceiling. I think Creighton has. I mean, obviously, Connect is really good, and they have some more athleticism than Creighton, and they probably have a little bit more depth than Creighton. Actually, Creighton's not
probably,
but I think the thing with Creighton is they like you see this every year. Now Tennessee was in a very close game themselves by their own doing. I think we see a team like this all the time. They survive a game like that, like the way they won. And they really, like there's a few different moments in that game later where the probability of them winning was not good.
Yeah.
So the second overtime where they just dominated that to death. But that was like a lot of foul trouble. Oregon's not overly deep. They get some of these cats in big time foul trouble. Then it's sort of like, the Creighton starts hitting threes, and then you're just like, like, what do we do? And so I think Tennessee's going to be pretty physical with them. That certainly favors Tennessee. They really go either way. I will actually say this. If Creighton, and I know they can really shoot, I think that Creighton would have a lot harder time with Purdue than Tennessee would in a rematch.
I agree.
Part of me is hoping Creighton wins the game because, like, the first time you see Zach Edey is shocking. You can do all the simulations, everything you want to do. You can look at all the film you want to, but then that dude is out there, and you are like, kill me. I mean, like Grambling State just, blown away. Utah State. Now, Tennessee's obviously seen Edey, this year. And we got other guys playing better. But we had to shoot the ball. We had a couple of guards that had to play really, really well. I think Braden Smith and Ware had like 26, 27. They played really well. I remember Lance Johnson necessarily. He played like all right in spots, and obviously Coleman's come on. So honestly, if we play our best, I still like Purdue. But like Tennessee has that. We had to go to the free throw line a bunch in that game. Made a ton of free throws. So maybe they'd feel bad for Rick Barnes and like not call or just let us bug away on Edey. I don't think Creighton will be able to muck up the game like that. So I think if we just close out on their shooters and you get Kalkbrenner and foul trouble, Purdue gets to there, I think they have a chance of wrecking Creighton. It's like the same way you think Creighton can, because Creighton gets ahead as a front runner on Tennessee, it's going to be hard for Tennessee. And there's been times when Tennessee's looked like really bad. Like when they look bad, it's been like that, you know. And so, I mean, I think I'm gonna go Creighton, but tough call. I mean, it literally that would be like a game where I would have to, if I were gonna bet it, I would live bet it, but it's probably a stay away. I think Creighton's a small dog, so I think I would say I'd take it that way for just the value. But you know, and I think everybody and their mother has Tennessee going far. A lot of people have Tennessee going to the Final Four and knocking Purdue out. So I just think, I also think contrarian that way. Like literally more people have Tennessee beating Purdue. Tennessee going to the Final Four than Purdue, which is insane. You just look at it from like what we've done. I mean, maybe not locally, you or whatever, but nationally down here, I guarantee you people down here will have Tennessee going further, you know. But, you know, so I think Creighton might lose this. I might win this game. I think they get back to the Elite Eight for the second time in a row.
All right. Last one. We've pretty much, I mean, we spent quite a bit of time in the opening segment on this.
Yeah.
But I think Purdue wins here. I think that I was hearing what Mark Hughes said in the media already. I think that it's pretty apparent they're worried about certain matchups and they're keying on Zach Edey and they're preparing it from that way. So I think this is a game where, I mean, his averages in the first two rounds are, you know, all-time great. But I think this is a game where I think some other players step up, and I think that they're gonna put a lot of emphasis and focus on this. And I think that, again, I've said it all year, Purdue's shown the ability to not deviate from their game plan, and obviously their game plan is first going to Edey, but that doesn't mean that it's turn and do whatever you want. It's, you know, catch, make the right play. And I think that my inclination is that they're going to overload on Edey, and I think that there's going to be some really easy opportunities for just about everyone else on the court this game. And if you're going to pick that poison, you know, obviously those other players have to step up. And the thing about it is every one of them, including even Trey Kaufman-Renn, has stepped up in those spots. If that's your goal to overload in the post, I think that Utah State gave the blueprint of why that's a bad idea. Even if you know you force a miss or he's, you know, Kaufman-Renn's there to clean up if the ball's not getting kicked to an open player. And I think that they're just playing at a really high level right now, and I don't think this is going to be a particularly tough game. You know, midway through the second half, I think it'll be, you know, I don't think it'll be in question. So I got Purdue here.
Yeah, huge home contingent, level crowd for Purdue. It's also the early game too, so it means that people that are there for the Creighton Tennessee game, the fans that are there, worst case they get in their second half. Borrowing a phrase from me, we might we might have already done nasty work in the first half to where maybe getting there in the second half of the year against Purdue might be a futile effort. But they're very well coached. They've got some good players. The teams that have made really deep runs for Gonzaga, now they're almost playing the underdog role, so maybe they'll thrive in that to some degree. But the teams that have made really deep runs, obviously, they went to like 9 straight Sweet 16s. But how many of those have been in position from like 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 that were like, this is the worst Gonzaga team on paper that they've had in like, we might be going on a decade. I mean, it's been a while. Maybe, it's been, when's the last time you didn't, when's the last time you didn't think Gonzaga would probably be in the Sweet 16 based on how good they were? It's been a long time because they've been a 1 or a 2. You said to win that game, and then it's like they said to win that other game, and it's like you probably had them moving on. I mean, so it's been a hell of a feat. But you're talking about, and they've seen Zach Edey, so that does help them some, and they seem pretty confident in that. I just think that there's so many other people on Purdue that can beat you. I think Kaufman played really, really well, and he didn't play good in the first half against Grambling State. The second half played very well, and then the whole game, against Utah State. But it's like if Purdue beat them on the glass, like if we beat them on the glass, and they've got 3 big dudes, they're going to have to hit a lot of 3-pointers to win this game. And they got guys that can shoot them, and I'm sure they'll shoot better than they did the first time, but so will Purdue. I mean, I think you get to a spot where, like, even when you bring in the reserves, like, I just think you get in a spot where you wear Gonzaga down. Like, what does their, like, even if they can throw 3 big guys and you've got Fletcher Lawyer having to D up someone that he's giving some size on, Matt Painter knows that. I mean, like, he knows he'll slide somebody over, and they might try and take, Zach Edey out, and, of the lane, but we're not going to guard him that way. I mean, Mark Few's going to come up with some things. But in the last 2 years, already 2 double-digit games, both times Purdue's down at some point. And I just don't think that we had kind of like a slow start the last 2 games. I think some of that was nerves. Some of that was like, okay, now we can't lose to a double-digit seed unless North Carolina State gets to the championship. But that ain't happening. So, but even still, it's like, so now we kind of got that, like, yes, you're trying to make an Elite 8 game, but, like, Purdue's pretty well equipped to make this happen. I mean, Gonzaga's certainly capable of beating Purdue, but I just think you're catching the level of motivation, and then if you look at, like, how many games was Purdue in where they had to grind out a win against a very good team? How many times was Gonzaga in those spots?
Yeah.
And they basically grinded out 1 game at Kentucky. And Kentucky's defense is shite compared to Purdue's. And I think Purdue actually defensively has been playing really well. And I just think if we get any of their guys in foul trouble, which seems to be inevitable, and I don't, I think Braden Smith, Lance Jones, like you said, Lance Jones, if he has a game, they're just, I think there's something where if he scores 14 or more points, Purdue's undefeated.
So, like I said, I think that he's due for one, and I think this is probably the game where
I really just think this team's on a mission. I mean, like, it's nothing else. It's just like, what kind of a level of game can Gonzaga play for 40 minutes against our team that we lose a game with 75% home fans? With, like, you already said, like, the reason why these guys came, like, why Edey came back was to be in this game. I mean, to win, to get to, Final Four, win the national title. But, like, I think Lance Jones also playing for his dad who passed away. Like, I think, the next game, obviously, the pressure ramps up, to get breakthrough and get to the Final Four. But, I mean, I think if Purdue gets to the Final Four, I think they're in the championship game. And then it's like if they play anybody but UConn, I mean, even if they play you, I think they're actually going to win the game. But like, my point is, like, it gets to be a point where there's only so many teams that are capable of beating Purdue if we play A- basketball. It's not that many. And I think you're going to get a hell of an effort from Purdue. And I mean, it's a lot of points. I think the media really likes Gonzaga. But if you go look at who they had to beat to get there, it goes back to like you kind of are who you are. They played St. Mary's twice. They got beat. They played St. Mary's 3 times. They got beat twice. Didn't win the regular season of their conference for the first time in eons. And you know, you look at St. Mary's; they were out right away. I know it's considered property, but if you look at Kentucky when they didn't look good, they didn't look good. And they lost. Kentucky also lost like 3 other home games. First time it's happened in a year. So it's not like going and winning at Kentucky this year was like something that just could not be done. You know, so I think that it's very simple if you really break these things down. It's like what are you capable of doing when that team plays like they're capable? And it's like you saw what Purdue did when we flexed our muscles. We beat the fuck out of both teams badly. And they won their 2 games by some margin. But like once again, you got a team where they felt disrespected and McNeese State could not match up with them at all. Total different level of like who they played, coaching, all that stuff. And then you got a broken Kansas team. Like if Purdue was playing Kansas in this game, and it was Purdue minus 12 and a half, you would hammer Purdue. And I mean hammer that 12 and a half. You would hammer it. You would expect Purdue to win this game by 25 if they're playing against Kansas. Because without McCullough, they have no chance. And Edey already eats up Dickinson. We've killed him. And that's what Gonzaga did. And Gonzaga struggled with them at halftime. Well, they're a mentally weak team. And then, you know, with McNeese, it's just like they just overpowered them. You know, they're not overpowering Purdue. And they're not, you know, I just don't. They're going to have to hit 15 threes, I think, to reasonably have a chance to beat Purdue. And that's if Purdue hits like 4. So, you know, that's, you know, the more it's still not game time, game morning, I'll have a better feeling of it game time. But I didn't feel this way even like earlier today. Or like the more I talk myself through it, I'm like, I really like what he's doing. And I don't want to be confident about something like the team hasn't been in the Final Four once in my lifetime. But I just feel like the more I think about it, the more I really think, you know, I mean, because other things are going to be in the game. Like, you listen, obviously, as they should, but, like, their coach is, like, you know, facing them once, and the fact they've been up, it's almost like they're, like, if he can get his players to believe that they were up, obviously they're up, and it's like, I think what's being misunderstood here is that, like, Gonzaga's gotten better, and we play differently, but Purdue's gotten better.
Yeah.
Since then, you know.
For sure. Absolutely. Well, it will be a tremendous weekend for sure. Actually, starts
I am hoping
today.
I'm hoping for the birthday present of a lifetime with the Purdue going to the Final Four, being either Creighton or Tennessee. It'll be an awesome Easter / birthday / March Madness. Awesomeness. That's what I want. That's what I want for my birthday. Is a Purdue Final Four. Not too much to ask.
It's not.
So it's in the realm of possibilities.
Should be a great weekend.
Should be.
All right. Well, I think we'll wrap it there. We'll get back on here. We'll get active with our picks on social media in the meantime, but we'll get back on here. We'll figure out a way to within the window predict the after the first games before the second game start this weekend. And then
like Saturday morning.
Yeah. Makes sense. So
it can kind of be whenever. I mean, we'll figure it out.
Yeah. So we will see you soon, and
Oh yeah.
We'll get this broken down for you, and hopefully everyone enjoys the games.
Absolutely. Blow it up.
There you go. All right, man. Well, you enjoy Thursday's games, Friday's games, and we'll see you soon.
Yes, absolutely, man.
All right, man.
Peace.